and, and a practice teacher. So I have been on both sides. I have been in a seat where I am being interviewed, and I have also been in an interview panel before. So I've experienced both. And today I would like to share what I have in terms of CV writing and interviewing techniques. And basically, even though it's aimed at internationally educated nurses and midwives, it would benefit anybody also who may not be a nurse or midwife, because we've kept it fairly general. Thank you very much. Please put your questions in the chat if required, and we would answer. And at any point, you can also stop me and just use the icon to raise your hand if required. And my colleague would let me know, and I can stop at any point. My colleagues would also chip in as and when required. Thank you. So the purpose of this presentation is to remind IENs and internationally educated nurses and midwives and anybody else on how to make an impact with their CV, that's a curriculum vitae, and also to raise awareness on the content of your CV, to improve your knowledge on how to prepare for an interview, and to improve your knowledge and understanding of the interview process from both the interviewers and the candidates' perspective. A CV, as we might all be aware, is a document which summarizes your job experiences and your education and your skills as well. And it's usually used for the purpose of obtaining an interview when seeking employment. It's often the first item that potential employers encounter regarding a job seeker, and therefore a large amount of importance is placed on it. These days, most jobs have online portals for applications. However, when you have your CV ready, you can adapt it and use it to complete any job application, including online applications. So the CV, as I mentioned, is to generate interest in you. It's a passport for a job, record of all your education and work history, and an important document when you are looking for a job. And therefore, it needs to be very good. Otherwise, you might not be shortlisted. And obviously, if you are not shortlisted, then you can't even get through the door at all. And in today's job market, good jobs are very competitive to come by. And your CV, therefore, should demonstrate your added value. And obviously, once you have prepared your CV, as I mentioned earlier on, you can transfer it. If you have to apply for a job online, it should show your unique selling points, and it should demonstrate your transferable skills, and it should demonstrate how adaptable you are, and should have good references when it's asked for. And the CV, it should be personal. You can't really copy anybody else's CV, because a CV is personal to yourself. It's what you have done. You should sell your skills and abilities for future employment. When preparing your CV, it should really present your full potential and if you make any examples, you should have, if you put any statements in, you should have examples to back what you have put in your CV. It should have a good balance of everything that you are declaring, basically, and it should have an opportunity. You should have an opportunity to be able to expand it further to suit relevant jobs that you are applying for. I mean, you could be applying for 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. However, they would all have different requirements. So it's important that you are aware that you've got to tweak your CV so that it's relevant to the job that you are applying for. It has to appeal to the reader. Otherwise, it would not get through the shortlisting stage, and therefore you might not even get the job, get through the door to get the job, as I mentioned earlier on. And if you have any gaps in your CV, you should give reasons why there are gaps. So we've got various types of CVs, and the most common type is the chronological CV. Chronological CVs list your educational and work experiences in the reverse order. And by that, I mean the most recent job or the most recent educational experience you've had should come first. This makes it easy for the employer to read through what you are currently doing and what you previously did before they come to what you did 10 or 20 years ago. As a result, based on research that I did, 80 to 85% of human resource professionals prefer this type. And you know that when you put your CV through or your application, your online application through, it goes to the human resource team first, and they prefer this type of CV. And so do the managers who are shortlisting. It's most preferred also, and also enforced by most online job adverts. It's great if for your employment history, and especially if it includes the most recent organizations that you have worked with and the names of your former employers. And it should effectively highlight your most recent experiences and organizations. The chronological CV is also a format preferred by most international job seekers and most international employers. Now we come to the content of the CV. As you might be aware, it should definitely have your name, your contact telephone number, and your email address. Your contact telephone number, so if they have to ring you to clarify something, they'll be able to get hold of you, and your email address. So if they are not able to contact you by phone, they should be able to email you. The postal address or your home address is optional. But sometimes I find that if I'm shortlisting and I see that the person's home address is on the CV or on the online application, I find that, wow, okay, this person lives not too far from here. They don't live 100 or 200 miles away. So obviously they are not too far from where you are, especially if the job is a job that requires you to be on site. Some jobs now you can work remotely, but especially in nursing, with nursing jobs, you are required to be on site most of the time. Again, the CV should highlight your job history. You can give a summary of what you've done probably within the last 3 to 5 years. Generally, demonstrates any transferable skills that you've got, organizations that you've worked with, whether you are, your personal qualities should be demonstrated, your reliability, how you work hard, if your friendliness should all be demonstrated in your personal summary. And this personal summary should also, you should be able to tweak it, especially when you are required to complete an online application where they ask for your personal information, where you've got to be able to demonstrate how you are suitable for the job. Because with the online ones, they would require you to complete the application, and then you are able to, you get an opportunity also to write a personal summary to demonstrate why you are suitable for the job. And that's normally your time to do that, your opportunity to do that, I mean. You also demonstrate or describe your educational experience, your education, your training, with dates, the names of the colleges or the universities, the courses, the title of the qualifications, and the list of job subjects. It's usually helpful you list the subjects because these are little things that the shortlisting team could be looking at if it's relevant to the job that you are applying for. The work history and the employment history, again, the previous employments, the dates where you were employed, And it's important that it's chronological because it's useful for the shortlisting panel to see your most recent or the current role that you are in, and then the most recent before, of course, they go to whatever you've done 10 or 20 years ago. So chronological CVs are very useful, and it's important that you list your employment and your training accordingly. The content also, if you've got any awards or publications, or if you've done any voluntary work, it's important to list them because they might all be relevant, and the shortlisting team may be interested in knowing what you've done outside or what you do outside working. So if you've had any awards or you've done any publications or you do any voluntary work, it's important to include all of that. If you drive, some jobs require people to drive, so it's important that you clarify that. And I've mentioned clarifying any gaps already. Hobbies and interests is also are also useful, and whether it's individual activities or group activities, it's useful. I've put there that references are optional until an offer is made, so you can hold back references until an offer is made. But when you are supplying details of the reference, it's important, of course, the name, their title, how they are related to you, if it's your previous colleague or previous employer or current employer, you put that down, their telephone number and their email contacts. I've come across situations where people have signed their CVs and dated them. At the bottom, it's useful because it shows the ownership and it shows also that the CV is up to date, but always try and go back to your CV and update it, especially when you've changed jobs or you've done any additional educational courses. The layout of your CV, it's important you keep it short and simple, maximum 2 pages. It becomes tiring to read the whole CV when it's more than 2 pages. Use phrases, not long sentences, and make it easy for the interviewer to understand you. Minimize personal information and keep it clear and clean. Also, design it such that the font is easy on the eye to read. Check spelling mistakes, any spelling mistakes, make sure that you do a spell check and keep it up to date. I've mentioned previously, and it's important to put your name on every page of the CV. Also, your email, sometimes we come across very funny emails. Make sure that the email format is formal and not a fanciful one. Tailor your CV, as previously I mentioned, to each job. You should really not just cut and paste your CV when you are applying for a job, especially the online ones. Sometimes we come across situations where we can see that the information provided has just been cut and paste from somewhere and it's not relevant to the job at all. It is extremely important to ensure that you tailor your CV to the job you are applying for, or if it's an online job, when you are transferring your CV to the online application, you should ensure that you read the JD and the person's specification so you tailor your application accordingly, and for that matter, your CV if that is required. Include keywords. So if it's a nursing job that you are applying for, you'll be required to include certain keywords. So it's important you take note of that. If it's an IT job, of course, you tailor it accordingly. And focus on the employer. And as I said earlier on, do a spell check. So some of the commonly used words or phrases are obviously when you put in your CV together, and I forgot a comma there, caring and compassionate, you are competent, good communication skills, committed, professional, hardworking, excellent communication skills, works well individually and as part of a team. And whilst these are great descriptions you can give to yourself, it is important that you make them sound meaningful. For example, you make them personal to you. So if you say you are confident, self-motivated, and disciplined when working as individuals, but you equally thrive within a team environment by offering support and motivation to colleagues at all times. So you don't just state these words in a job application. You state them, and in the job application, you describe what you mean, or at the interview for that matter. And we'll come to the interview. So for the final version of your CV, I can't stress enough, it's important you run a spell check, include everything. If you've done any presentations, if you've done any shadowing, and you seek help to strengthen your CV, you get somebody who you trust or you know has been through the process to look at your CV and comment on, and don't take criticisms as personal, but look at them positively, and know how to share your CV, especially if your interview is going to be via Zoom or MS Teams or Skype for that matter. For in-person interviews, if you are required to take your CV with you, I would suggest you take multiple ones. And if you have to email them, or you are requested to email them in a PDF format to avoid any incompatibility issues. And also it's presented in the original format that you are sending. That is, obviously, it is what you have written. So there's no chance of any incompatibility or any changes. And as I've mentioned throughout, some organizations such as the NHS do not ask for CVs. They would require you to apply for your NHS jobs online. It is important that you answer questions using the job description. Sometimes people attend interviews and you just know that, or they apply for jobs, and when you see the application, online application, you can just see that they have not read the job description or the person's specification provided. It is critical and important that you read it, and also extremely important that you make sure that you meet the essential requirements. If there's specific nurse specialism required, like if they've said they require a mental health nurse or an occupational health nurse, depending on the role that you are applying for. If you haven't got those, there's no point applying. And believe me or not, we have advertised jobs for nurses, and sometimes we have had people apply who are not nurses. And in these situations, you can just see that they have not read the job specifications nor the job description. So it is important. And if they have asked you to write a personal statement, and almost all NHS jobs these days require that, use the JD and the person's specification. It is your opportunity to demonstrate why you are the best person for the job. So it is important, revisit the job. Everything they are looking for is in the JD and the person's specifications. So it is important that you read those. If you are required to add a cover letter that could be useful, it introduces you as the candidate. It acts as, again, an opportunity to highlight your strengths, your attributes, and to convince the reader also that you are a good match for the job. Unlike your CV, you can write a bit more personally in a covering letter, allowing you to demonstrate your interest, your enthusiasm, and how passionate you are about the job that you are applying for. It's also important to tailor the covering letter to the job that you are applying for. If you've got one that you have prepared already, always look at the job and ensure that you have personalized it and ensure that it includes what the job is requiring, and not just cut and paste from whatever you've got. Make sure that it's really relevant to the job that you are applying for at the time. And I just put this example here of a CV. Unfortunately, it's not very clear, but as you can see, the person has put down a personal summary and then their work experience and then their key skills and their qualification. I mean, I'm more than happy to share these at the end of the presentation if required. And this is another one which unfortunately is not very clear, but it's because I have obtained it from elsewhere and I did everything I could, but unfortunately not very clear here. So once your CV online submission has been successful and you've been shortlisted for the job, of course, then that is the biggest hurdle you've gone through. So the employer wants to know more about you. It's a learning experience, and I would say take every opportunity if you get an interview. So we would go on to interviews. So with interviews, it's an opportunity for you, for the employer to establish whether you've got the competencies for the job. It's also to establish your knowledge, interest, and motivation, to find out what you are like, and to give you an opportunity to find out about the employer. It is a two-way process. So you should not worry about being able to ask questions as well. And for me, I would advise that if you are offered an interview, you could telephone them, you could ask them a bit more about the job, and some of them would let you know. Again, the other purposes of the interview to identify your suitability for the job, find out about your personality, whether you are trustworthy, how confident you are, to clarify your online submission, your character, your opinion about the job you've applied for, how responsible you are, how reliable you are, and your appearance. It's key. So make sure that you are presentable when you are attending the interview. Your appearance is extremely important. So we've got various interview stages. During the interview, normally you've got the introduction and welcome, where this stage is used to build the rapport. So the interviewers would introduce themselves, usually with a handshake, greeting the interviewee in a professional manner to make you welcome. This would last approximately a couple of minutes, and also it's basically done to put you at ease. Then we have a stage where they might want to acquire some information. And what I have done at this point is I have clarified if there's anything in the application or the CV that I'm not very clear with. I have asked the interviewee to clarify at this stage so that I'm aware of what they are implying in either the online application or the CV. So I try to acquire further information at this stage. And at this stage, it's normally a conversation manner. And then we come to the question and the answers, which is usually the longest portion of the interview. This is where the employer would ask you questions and listen to your responses. It's extremely important to listen very well. And if you don't understand anything, there's no reason why you can't ask for clarification. If you are not sure, you can even ask to skip the question and come back to it. So it's important that This stage is very, very, very important. This is the crucial stage. And it usually lasts for 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes longer if there's a presentation included. Right. Then once the questions and answers are finished, you get an opportunity to ask the employer questions. And believe me, you can ask any question at all. We had a situation where there were 4 of us interviewing in the panel, and the interviewee actually asked us to let them know how each of us got to where we were. So they were literally also interviewing us. So, and again, it's an opportunity for you to ask any questions. And then we've got the pattern and the closure bit, where it lasts for a few minutes. We take time to end positively. It's an opportunity for you to express your interest at that time and thank them for giving you the opportunity to attend. And throughout, you make good eye contact. And we'll go through these stages in the as we go along. So the interview preparations, once you've been offered an interview, you have to prepare for it. You have to first believe in yourself that, yes, you are good enough, you're going to get the job. And therefore, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else would believe in you. And of course, if you were not good enough for the job, you would not have been offered the interview. Do your homework. It's extremely important you do your homework, because we can see those who prepare for interviews and those who don't prepare. It's important that you remember first impressions count a lot, and you have to sound positive during the question and the answer stage that we've already discussed. It's a two-way process, and therefore you have to be confident in yourself, and remember it's a two-way process and it's a learning experience no matter what happens. Effective interview preparation, it's extremely important. You should do your research on the position for which you are attending the interview. You can ask yourself these questions. What do I know about the organization and their values? And make a conscious effort to read about the organization in which you've applied for the job. Almost all organizations have their visions and their values. Read about them, because sometimes that question comes up. What do you know about this organization? Can you tell us about our values and our vision? And that demonstrates that you have taken interest in the organization that you are going to work for, and you have read about what they stand for and what they do. In addition, the job that you have applied for, it's extremely important. You read about it, the specialty. What do I know about it? And even if you don't know much about it, read about it. An example I can give is that I was once a general nurse, and I applied for a job in intensive care. And it's not very easy moving from general nursing to intensive care. And I had to read a lot about it because I had so much interest in working in that area. And they can see if you have done your homework, if you have read about what you want to do. And so it's extremely important you do that. You've got to demonstrate why you are attracted to that type of work, why you want to work for the organization, why you want to do that job. So it is very crucial that you do your homework. Right. Also, you should be able to demonstrate in the interviews what relevant experience you have and why you should be offered that job. Again, moving from one specialty to the other, or in the example I gave, moving from general nursing to intensive care, you would have some transferable skills that would be needed. And as you have not got experience in that specialty, you should be able to demonstrate the transferable skills you have that would be beneficial in that area. And what training you should be aware of, what training you would require in that specialist area that you are going in, what additional skills that you would require, what you are hoping to gain, and what you are able to offer. And ask yourself, what have I done to find out more about this kind of work? If you don't know, ask people. I have done that when I'm attending interviews. I ask my colleagues who I know are more experienced than me, what their thoughts are. Look at this. Can you interview me? We do mock interviews and things like that. So it is extremely important to do your homework. And effective interview preparations obviously enables you to give the good impression that you want to give, prepares you for predictable questions, and you are able to respond to the required conditions, answer questions effectively, and it prepares you for any presentations that you may be required to do. As I mentioned earlier on, it is extremely important that you get at least a mock interview done. And I have done it several times. And you can get a friend or a colleague to maybe do a mock interview. These days on the internet, you can get sample questions of any specialty that you're going. So you can get these sample questions and then get somebody to ask you those questions. If it's a presentation, you can do a trial one. And if they've given you, say, if the letter says you've got maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do the presentation, obviously you have to present to yourself and see if you are able to do your presentation that you've put together in the amount of time that you have been given. So you do your you've done your PowerPoint or whatever presentation that you have to do, and you test yourself to make sure that you are able to present it in the allocated time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or whatever time that you have been given. So a mock interview presentation, it's important, and I'm sure that your friends, family can help. And with the internationally educated nurses and midwives, as you are aware, the Ghana Nurses Association, we are here for you. Contact us and we'll be able to support you through your interview preparations. We have various types of interviews. There are one-to-one interviews. These, in my situation, I have used it if it's maybe a casual position or an agency position where I know that I can meet with them and myself and have an informal chat with them and see what they are like. So that happens. I mean, there are situations where one-to-one interviews are relevant, where it happens between just the interviewee and one interviewer. Panel interviews are the most common interviews now. Usually there are two or more interviewers who meet at the same time with the interviewee, and normally they will take down notes, and you should not let that put you off if you find that the panel are taking notes. And usually they will tell you that they will be taking down notes. It's basically for them to be able to compare everybody that they have interviewed and do their assessments and their scoring to be able to, as part of their selection procedure or the selection process. And group interviews are where two or more candidates are interviewed by one or more interviewer. And this I have used when we are tendering. Normally we have two or more people from an organization that we need to obtain a service from, And so when they come for the interview, you would find that it's a group of them and a group of us interviewing. Remote interviews are very common these days. And we have the telephone and the video interviews. The telephone ones are usually used by employers in the early stages of an interview process to check requirements and gauge interest level of candidates. It is extremely important to take a telephone interview equally seriously, just like a one-to-one an in-person interview, because it's sometimes a chance to gauge what you are like, and sometimes they can make a decision based on that. However, it's usually followed by the in-person or video interview, and the video interview is usually a live video interview. It's very similar to face-to-face. I have used it before. And you have the interviewer and the interviewee and interviewers ask questions in real time, such as on Zoom, on Skype, or on MS Teams. And it's equally the same as having a face-to-face. So you have to take it that seriously as well. And there might be times you'll be asked to do a presentation. I think I've talked about that. You've got to read the question carefully. If you've been asked to do prepare a PowerPoint presentation or a project, do exactly what you've been asked to do, not something else. And there have been situations where people have been asked to prepare a PowerPoint presentation and they've turned up saying that I can tell you what I'm supposed to present. Sometimes the panel would like to know what you are with, like during a PowerPoint presentation and your presentation skills and all that. And therefore, hence the reason why they ask you to prepare a PowerPoint presentation. So it is important that if you are asked to prepare a PowerPoint presentation on a topic, you don't just turn up saying that I can tell you what I'm supposed to present. You may also be asked to describe a scenario. So now we've got group work here. We would like one group to discuss general skills that you think would be required from a candidate in an interview, and then another group to discuss general interview questions that think they might be asked and why. So my colleague, Rebecca, will put you in two groups. And I think there are about 42 participants, so we'll divide accordingly and we have a quick discussion and then come back. Thank you. So you would be put in the groups automatically. You just find yourself in one group.
Okay. Would my co-host, Tina, are you able to do the breakout rooms?
Breakout rooms.
So just 2 rooms.
Yeah, just to make it.
Rebecca, I'm having challenges here. Would you be able to put us into the breakout rooms, please?
All right, include co-host. Okay, assign automatically. So I want 2 rooms. Okay. 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 Yes. All right. So the question before we go to the breakout room, one group 1 will discuss what general skills would you require from a candidate, and group 2 will discuss what general interview question would you ask. So group 1 and group 2. Yeah.
Why?
Why? Okay.
Yeah, and why?
So just to say, you have 10 minutes each in your breakout room. You have 10 minutes each. Thank you.
Another great skill. Okay. Another great skill that can be expected from an interviewee is problem-solving abilities.
Yeah.
It's always good when a person has the capacity to analyze issues, to identify solutions and make decisions. Teamwork and collaboration. The capacity to work effectively with others, contribute to a team, and communicate well within a group setting, not having the me mindset or the I mindset, knowing that we all come together towards a common goal. Time management, the ability to prioritize tasks, to manage risks and manage one's time effectively so as not to waste the resources and time of the company. Adaptability and flexibility. The ability to, I don't want to say think outside the box, but to be able to accommodate, because in your job, there will be instances where you have to step out a bit to be able to accommodate all those allowances and vulnerabilities and still come up with 100%. Critical thinking. This applies more to nurses than I think other people, but the capacity to evaluate information and make reasonable judgments that are evidence-based and patient-centered, and so able to think analytically. That's for critical thinking. Then attention to details. It's always important when one has attention to details to be able to focus on the accuracy and thoroughness in completing tasks so as not to make mistakes. Then technical skills. We're in a global village today. We use computers, we use Microsoft Word and the whole Office package. It's always important when one can come in with this knowledge, you know. Then emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage one's emotions, as well as perceive and navigate the emotions of others so that we don't keep going into work and fighting every day, you know. So that's that from me.
Yeah.
You've said it all.
Oh.
Yeah, that is also what I was going to do.
Yeah,
you said it all.
You really
In
said
fact,
it all. Very good.
The important ones that you said, which is very, very important for today, the technical skills and emotional intelligence is very, very important in addition to
Coming 12 o'clock. Oh, 12 o'clock. Okay, then that's fine. Okay, thank
All
you.
right. So are we supposed to go back and join our breakout room?
Well, we've said a lot. If we want to, because 12 o'clock, we have another 5 minutes. I guess if we've already, whatever, we can have a cup of tea and then
Good point.
You've exhausted
Have
your
a
options.
comfort break.
stretch the legs and then.
And yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then okay,
I
so 12
talk to you.
o'clock, let's
Talk to you
come.
all at 12. Thank you.
2 hours is a long time. So if you need a comfort break, you can have a comfort break, stretch.
Yes.
And yeah. So please have a comfort break and stretch. But we would like to see all 42 of you back, please. Thank you.
I'm definitely coming back here. I ain't getting rid of me.
Uh-huh.
No, the presentation went off, so I think you have to share again.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, so you have to share the slides again from where you were.
Okay.
Please.
I don't know what's happened. Sorry. Okay, I have to come out. Sorry about that. I don't know what's happened.
But Rebecca, are we all back from the breakaway
Yeah, we are all
rooms?
back from the breakout room. So the breakout room is
Okay, but I
closed.
can't see. So I have to, I think it got disconnected. So
Okay.
I have to come back in.
Okay.
Sorry about that. 2 questions. And we are continuing from here. And can one person in group A tell us what they came up with, please?
So we were in group 1. It was group 1 and group 2.
Okay.
And we have a lead who is Marie, who is going to present our answers. Marie, if you are there, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where is she? Where is she? Marie?
Can anybody else in group 1 probably?
We didn't write a lot. I think she said a lot.
Yeah. I mean, group 1, I wanted them to say, but we did discuss about effective communication.
Yeah.
And then to demonstrate as a good teamwork and collaboration.
Yeah.
Time management.
Yeah.
And being adaptable and flexible.
Yeah.
And be a critical thinker.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And then having technical skills.
Yes. And problem-solving ability.
And problem-solving ability, and then emotional intelligence.
That's fantastic.
And
yeah.
So,
attention to detail.
Attention to details. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So these skills have to come out in your scenarios, answering your interview questions, how you listen, and the scenarios when they ask you examples that you give, the interviewer will be picking some of these from the answers that you give in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So
I had a general question as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
it
definitely.
Will be, what computer skills or IT skills have you got to use in the job you are applying for? It's very important because almost every health authority uses computerizing in order to share information.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the technical skills, they went to see, to have at least the basic Microsoft,
yes,
the computer skills, and some of them have even
Word,
PowerPoint, and all those. Yes. So
that's
classified all those on the technical skills.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry, Irene, can I come in there? Can we get a feedback from one of the nurses, please?
What feedback?
No, from I want one of the our nurses themselves to speak, if that's possible.
Yeah,
Marie is ready to speak.
Marie,
Yes, I'm here. I was talking, but I didn't know my mute was on.
off.
Okay, so like she said, these were the things that we discussed. How important it is for us to have communication skills in an interview, and every point that she mentioned, it was very insightful. Though when we were discussing, we gave more examples. We spoke more in depth about it, and we even explained to somebody who came on later what emotional intelligence means as an interviewee, how you need to explain that you're emotionally sound to be able to work collaboratively with others. Because when you work in a group, especially as a nurse or a midwife in the NHS, you're going to be coming in contact with a multidisciplinary team, a whole lot of people with different backgrounds and different experiences in life that impact how they make their decisions. And so you need to be able to have a cap on your emotions and to be able to deal responsibly and accountability and accountably, to be able to know that everything you say or do or document can be used against you, so.
Yeah. That's very useful. Thank you so much. What about group 2, please? Group 2, about the interview questions. We've now talked about the skills we require. What about the questions? That's group 2.
Well,
is there anybody from group 2 here, please?
It was very difficult to communicate in group 2. I think I sent you a text about communicating within that group because we couldn't hear one another, and many people probably were also muted. They didn't know that they should unmute. In the end, just coming to the end, I got one lady to talk to, and she was asking about how to move from one type of a job into another type of job. So the general interview question I wanted her to know was what specific job area that she was looking for. Somebody is singing.
Yeah, go, Mr. Hagen. I've put them on mute. You can talk.
Pardon?
I said, go on. I've just muted the person, so you can talk.
Yeah, basically, as I said, group 2, as far as I was aware, we didn't have a meeting because I couldn't hear people talking. In the last moment, I got one lady talking about sending her CV for different jobs, and I answered. One of the general interview questions I would ask her is, what job specifically are you looking for? Because some people send their CVs for any job that is going, which is contrary to what Irene was saying. You must tweak your CV for the specific area job description you have been given. But some people probably didn't know that.
Irene, you got up Obi's hand up. Obi, unmute yourself and ask
Obi, your question, please.
It's not a question, it's a comment. That is, I think we are all feeling the technical difficulties at the moment with Wi-Fi issues, etc. But what I would say when it comes to interview questions from an employer's perspective, from interview panels I've sat on, I think the very first one is that tell us about you question. I did not know how loaded it was until I did my interview skills training. So yeah, that would be one of the most important ones, I would say.
Oh, thank you very much, Obi. That's really useful. Yeah, you are right. That's the first question most interview panels would ask an interviewee. So yeah, you are right. Yeah, Mr. Hagen, I'm really, really sorry that you were not able to communicate. And as somebody has just mentioned, we are all
Irene, can you pause there? You got two hands up. You got Martha, Lady Ivy's hand and Martha Dear's hand, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, and I think Lady Ivy was first, wasn't it?
Yeah. Ivy.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to comment on the contribution from Obi. It's usually when you go for interview, yes, usually the first question is to tell us about yourself. And actually, I'm quite impressed with the comment from Obi to say that she didn't realize how loaded that question was, because that question is not just telling you about yourself, and a lot of people misinterpret that question to be anything about yourself, what you did yesterday, how you're preparing, what you ate for breakfast, that kind of stuff. But that question has got nothing to do with that at all. That question has got to do with your career, your profession, where you've come from in terms of your profession, what you've done up until now, and why you're coming for the job, and what your contributions are. So it's quite a loaded question, and I'm glad she raised it, because a lot of people misinterpret that question. And if you get the response to that question wrong, of course, it sets the whole scene for your interview, and people make their own analysis and assessment of you. Yeah. So I just thought I'll comment on that. Thank you.
That's so true. Thank you very much, Ivy. That's really, really true. Once the scene is set and you get that introductory question wrong, then that's it, basically. So it's extremely important. It's a very important question to try as much as you can to get right. Thank you. Martha, yeah.
Thank you, Irene, for giving me this. Most of the things I think Ivy has said, but what I want to clarify is that sometimes it is an icebreaker just for you to be relaxed so that you can. And usually that question, we don't score that question, but we take a lot of things, your attributes, your skills, and other things from that question. So I will encourage people that if, and I have been in a panel too, and as Ivy was saying, that it relates to professional, your profession, your skills, and other things. Sometimes too, it depends on the job that you go in for. Some people also just want to know a little bit about you, your personal. So what I advise people is that there is nothing wrong with you asking the person that, do you want me to tell you about myself in a professional way or in my personal life, so that we get the clarification? Because you'll be on and on talking about your personal life, but meanwhile, that interview, they don't want your personal life. They want your professional. Or you go in and you talk about your professional life, but that interview, they want a little bit of your personal to add to it. So I think it's important that if you are not sure, just ask for clarification. And if though we don't score it, we take a lot of information from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. That's really a valuable contribution there. Thank you very much. Mr. Hagan, did you have your hand up, please?
Yes. Even whilst we are talking, we are using some descriptions which can be discouraging. Please, just what Martha has just said, and Ivy said earlier, if you are being asked a question and you don't understand it, please ask for it to be repeated in a different way so that you can understand it. That's number one. But secondly, even if you felt that the first part of your interview is going wrong, don't lose hope, because there are other questions that are coming which will allow you to shine. So you have to be determined that you are going to shine at every point in that interview. Do not lose hope because of the first part you didn't understand it.
That's very useful, Mr. Hagan. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, please?
Sorry, Irene, if I may add, not a question, just a comment on that. Tell us about yourself. Sometimes they won't ask you straightforward to say, tell me about yourself, but that question could be asked in a different way. So one of the interview I did was to say, how would your skills and knowledge help to provide quality of care for this client group? What I wanted you to tell me is about yourself and knowledge, but I have not asked the direct question. So you have to pay attention. Some of the question might not ask you straightforward to say, tell me about yourself, but you can deduce from the question. That's why the person is requiring you to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Very useful contributions there. Anybody else has anything to say before we continue, please?
Yes. It's just to reiterate that it is important that in all interviews, if you don't understand any question, like with already said, you have to ask for them to reiterate the question or rephrase the question. And you have that opportunity to, possible, if you are not able to answer that question, you can move on to the other question, and then you can ask to come back to the question again.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so I will carry on from here. Thank you.
You got Nana, my hand is raised.
Oh, sorry, Nana. Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to add as well that one thing that I remember, I can see the sister Martha Grace on the platform. I mean, I remember back in 2016 when I went for my job interview. One thing that she said that actually at that time she wasn't a member of the GNA or anything like that, so I didn't know her from anywhere. But when she called me to take me to the panel, she just said that don't be nervous. Just remember that those interviewing you, they are much probably nervous more than you are, and they are human as well. And that really helped a lot. So I would just say that just remember that they're just as human as you are. So just keep calm and, as said, believe in yourself as well, that you know you're good enough for the job. That's why you've been called for the interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nanama. Very useful. Thank you.
We got Obi hand is up.
Yes, Obi.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to hog the comments, but an additional interview question that I have found was also somewhat loaded was the question about why you chose to apply for this particular role. On the last panel I sat on, someone who scored very highly and technically really sort of pitched, is that the right word? I'm Ghanaian. Picked the highest scorer to pick them to the post, brought their passion. They didn't actually use a technical example. Even though they demonstrated that they had the technical ability, they used a personal example to answer that. And they linked that personal example to the requirements of the job interview, thereby demonstrating that they not only have the technical skills, they also have the passion for their job. And that really took their scores to the next level. So to cut a long story short, the point I'm making is, if you don't have technical skills, but you have some non-technical skills that are transferable to the job spec and the interview questions, don't be afraid to sort of build it in, as long as you don't go too off tangent.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Irene, if I may come in, I've got somebody's got their hand up, but there's no name.
It's me.
Okay.
It's me, yes. What I also wanted
What's
to
your
add
name, please?
is Josephina. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
What I wanted to also add to all the valuable comments is that the interviewee, they should always do their research before, because when you get some interviewees attend the interview not prepared at all. So when they are not prepared, they come and sit down and they are panicking. But a good tip is to read their JD and look at the application form where they see the desirable skills and then read all the criteria. So they prepare themselves, they go to the interview, they will feel a lot more informed for the questions that they are going to ask them. But when they don't prepare and they sit down, then they start panicking when they ask one question and they don't answer. You see their whole body language that, you know, they haven't done well. And then it doesn't make the interviewers also feel that they should even continue with the interview as well, because they haven't come across that strong. So they must do preparation before they attend the interviews.
Thank you very much, Josephina. I am so pleased to know that everybody is so engaged, and it's just fantastic to know. So, Mr. Hagan's hand is up, please. Thank you.
I think Josephina has just taken something out of it. Just remember that it's not only what you are speaking, what you are saying, which are important. The whole general conduct that you present throughout the interview also counts. It's not a question that they will be asking you, how do you behave, and things like that. But they are watching you. They are looking at you. Even if you have made a mistake and corrected yourself, they know that as a general conduct, you are able to take on a risk. If you have made a mistake, you are prepared to correct your mistakes. You are prepared to learn from whatever experiences you have had in the past. And in the interview itself, they are watching for that. Whether you are the person who is brave enough to come up when you realize that something better could have been done or something better should be done. So they are watching you. Don't give up.
Thank you very much. Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Hagan. That's really useful. And as I said, I'm so pleased that everybody is so well engaged. Thank you. Okay, so, sorry. So we have all discussed the interview questions and skills that are required. And as we can gather, everything is about, obviously, initially about ourselves, our education and training, the current work we are doing, and the job that we are applying for. So it's important that we emphasize on our knowledge, experiences, personal traits in relation to the job that we are being interviewed for. And we've talked about almost all of these: decision-making as some of the skills required, multitasking, problem solving. I think you said so much better than what's here, so that's fantastic. And again, we've talked about the question about ourselves, weaknesses. Normally, I would say that we should include many a time people ask me, what shall I say? They ask me about weaknesses. And obviously there's so many examples. And I would say one of them is, I have trouble saying no, so I end up taking a lot on, but I'm working on this. About your strengths, you talk about your abilities. Teamwork, you can describe a situation with a co-worker, what happened, and how it was resolved and what you learned from it. Adaptability, I think we've talked so much about that. Nobody knows it all. Don't be afraid to describe a time when you didn't know something about a situation and then you ask for clarification. So it is important that we are able to ask for clarification if we don't understand a question. Oh, sorry. Oh.
Sorry, Irene. I think I can see Lady Ivy's hand up. I don't know whether it's a legacy hand or.
Oh, sorry, Ivy. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And it's not a legacy hand. I just wanted to comment on the weakness. Contribution that you put there. Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people go to interviews without thinking about the weaknesses that they have, because nobody wants to talk about their weaknesses. It's normal, it's human nature. Having said that, it is good to think about something that you probably don't do so well and discuss it. But a lot of people are also quite skeptical talking about their weaknesses because they feel that it might actually affect them, their performance in terms of being viewed as not being able to do something at interview, and how the panel might actually interpret that. So they don't, one, prepare, and two, not keen to say anything. two things here. One, yes, you should be able to talk about the weakness that you have, but my only comment on that would be that when you talk about the weakness, perhaps you can mention what you are doing about that weakness or what you are doing to improve that weakness. So, for example, when I've been to interviews where they've asked me what my weakness is, and I said to them, I'm a very fast-paced worker, and sometimes I don't stop to think about those who work slowly or those who don't work as fast as I do. And when I do realize that, I stop and I bring them on board and have that discussion. So I'm always conscious that not everybody works as fast as I do. And that is a weakness. So, but I say to them, I always make sure that I'm looking at how fast I'm working, how well I'm doing, how others are not doing so well as I'm doing, and then bring them on board. So that is what I'm doing about it. And then you see the panel will probably be nodding their heads. But you should also be careful to, even though you need to discuss a weakness, you should also be careful to discuss a weakness that will probably not cause you, not be detriment to your as for the interview, because at the end of the day, you are there to get a job. So if it's a weakness that you think if you bring up, it might have a negative implication for the interview, maybe think about something different, because panel, they're also human. If you say, actually, I'm not able to do this, I struggle to do this, I struggle to do that, it can have a negative effect on the outcome of the interview. Thank you.
That's
Thank
fantastic.
you. Irene, there's a question from the chat. It says, please, if you haven't been asked about your weakness, must you talk about it? Help me out with this.
I don't think so. If they haven't asked you about your weakness, I don't think it's useful to talk about it. That's my answer to that. I don't know if anybody has got anything else to say to that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, I think in an interview, what you haven't been asked about, you don't bring it up.
No. So you don't have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tina and Ivy. Right. Any other questions?
There was a question. Thank you for organizing this. I'm currently in the UK supporting my two grown-ups niece based in Ghana. In their efforts to get NHS role via the sponsorship route, I feel my coaching is very civil service centric. I'm a trainer and coach. Is there anyone or group who can provide additional support specific to NHS, please? Also, may I have the recording of this session?
That's fine. I think, Rebecca, we could answer this outside once we finish this. So if you could take the email or the contact details for this person, and then we can get back to them after this session, please.
The other one is, can the recording be made available? Yes, but they are also asking to share the slides before you finish after you finish the presentation.
After, that's fine. We could share the slides. Yes. Okay. Anything else, or I can carry on?
Yeah, people can still put questions and anything via the chat area, and we'll try and fit them in before.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we've talked a lot about these. So we've said, listen carefully and answer the questions, seek clarification if required. You can ask to return to a question. If you don't know the answer to a question and you feel that you can think about it, you could say, can we come back to this question, please? Have evidence to support any claims you make. Talk about your personal contributions. If you describe a scenario, if you describe a situation, many a time we have to go back to ask, what did you do yourself in this situation? What did you do yourself? So it's important to describe your personal contributions and describe any positive outcome and be specific. So answering questions, again, there are some strategies, and this is one of them. It's a well-known the STAR method is a well-known technique that can be used. in behavioral-based interview questions, and basically think about the situation or a similar situation that had a successful outcome. Think about the task, what task you were responsible for, state your contribution clearly and concisely. What action did you take? This is the time to highlight your qualities, what you did, how you demonstrated your abilities in there, and the result, what was the outcome? How did you specifically contribute to the outcome? What did you learn and take away from the experience? So it's important, if you are asked the question, think about a technique to use to describe the situation, the task, the action, and the outcome. Sorry. And there are some action words that can be used in answering questions. Example, I identified, I created, I initiated. These demonstrate to the employer how you are able to put your skills in practice. Action words are specific, clarify your contributions, your achievements, and are very powerful. They can help to demonstrate and emphasize leadership. If it's a leadership role that you are attending the interview for, and notice a difference between this. I did an audit and was able to work significantly and work on the significant cost reductions, or I initiated and coordinated an audit and identified significant costs. So the words instead of did an audit, initiated and coordinated, come out stronger than just using the word did and was able to work on significant costs and reductions. But if you use initiated, coordinated, identify significant cost reductions, it sounds a bit more like what you did. You initiated, coordinated, and identified. So we have to think about some of these action words. It's all the wording to use. So after the interview, review your performance, what went well, what didn't go so well. Ask for feedback when you are contacted with the outcome of the interview. Make notes, don't get discouraged. Treat each interview as a chance to develop your skills. Good luck and happy holidays. These are some websites, but once I've shared the slides, they will be on there. And thank you very much for listening and for the engagement. I mean, the engagement has been fantastic, and that's exactly what I was expecting or I was hoping for. And I'm glad that it's been really engaging. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions, please?
Sorry, thank you very much, Irene, for giving it. That's very skillful and well-paced, and you've engaged us to discuss. Just to add one or two things, that these days in NHS, we are looking to include value-based questions. So equality, diversity, and inclusion question comes in all interview questions. So be prepared and be aware, because you'll be asked to demonstrate or talk about how you are able to work with people who are different from your background, or how are you going to be inclusive at the workplace. So if you haven't read anything about that, please do that, because they will definitely add a question of a value-based question there. The other thing also to say, which you have mentioned, is that most of the NHS questions are scenario-based. So be prepared. So they'll give you a scenario, so then you have to work out how you answer using the star, but always give an example of what you did and how you can reflect. Again, another thing that in NHS looking for is how you are able to reflect on whatever you have done. So thank you. That's my extra thing that I want to add.
Thank you. Ivy's hand is up, please.
Thank you. Just a comment. Usually when we get candidates coming for interview, the assumption is that they are coming to interviews to be questioned or to be interviewed. So we don't always prepare for questions for the panel. And so when we get asked, so do you have any questions for the panel? Sometimes we say no. I think, I suppose the view is that having questions for the panel actually is a good thing. It's a good thing in the sense that it tells them that you have prepared well for the interview. And a typical question that I tend to ask when I go for interviews, how have you enjoyed your job working for this organization? Why have you been in this role for so long? And you'll be surprised that you ask these questions and it throws the panel, because they don't think about you asking them a question in relation to their job and why they've been there for so long. So usually it's a good one to ask. But the point I'm trying to make is that please prepare for questions for the panel, because it tells them that you have come to the interview well prepared. I suppose the other thing I just wanted to comment on is feedback. And Irene, yes, you're right. We need to ask for feedback, and you ask for feedback whether you were successful or not successful. And it's always good to get the feedback in writing if you could, because it will help you prepare for the next interview if you are not successful. But it's always good to ask for feedback. Sometimes when we don't get the job that we're looking for, we get so disappointed that we think, you know what, I don't really want to know how well or how badly I did. But it's always good to ask for feedback, because it helps you for, even if it's not for the next job that you're applying for, it helps you prepare to develop yourself for wherever you're going to, especially when you apply for a higher grade band job.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Any other questions, please?
Is it possible to just send the slides via the chat area now before we finish?
I don't think so, because I have first